Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles. My name is Danny De Lillo. We are here at Emerson College, LA, and I'm here with Chris with his movie, Big Touch. For those that haven't seen it, let's take a look at the clip. Chris, thank you for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to get to be with you today.
I know, in person this is so rare and such a wonderful occasion.
Exactly,
and thanks so much for bringing your film to us. I really enjoyed it at a personal level and I'm excited to share more questions with you. But for those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
Synopsis, it's
the question.
Well, more than anything, it's about transformation through touch. That's about as much as I'm willing to give away because there's magic in the film, and there's a red herring at the beginning of the film, and then within about 40 seconds it takes a right turn. So you really have to just watch the film, I'm afraid.
If that's a really good little bite to watch the film, there's a reason you should watch Big Touch. Well, listen, on a personal level, like, I think it's so ironic because Big Touch and the lack of being able to connect with people has been so few and far between for like what feels almost like 2 years now. It was just an incredible film to watch in such a short spirit. I felt so much. I'm just curious for you personally, where did the inspiration come for you in creating this short film?
To me, the single most important way that people can relate to one another is through touch. I think that oftentimes when we're using words, we're hesitating and trying to come up with the right thing for fear of a betrayal. And even still, when the words are coming out, they may not exactly be what we feel most. But there's a scientific study that I was reading this morning, actually, about several hundred cases of study of people who were total strangers and touching one another, and 100% of the time, the person who is being touched could actually read what the emotions were of the other person.
Wow.
In addition to the fact that other scientific studies have shown that the more hugs that you get or more touching that you get in the course of your day, the more it boosts your immune system. Now, my film, as you know, is not in any way to do with science. All of this is intuitive. We know this. This film for me is just a baby step forward for the other kinds of films that I'd like to be making about intimacy. I mean, I believe that the main way that we can grow and heal from past wounds is through intimacy between a partner in which there's equality among the two people.
Yeah.
And I just think that touch is the key. There's so much talking.
Yeah.
And technology can really get in the way. I mean,
yeah.
The reason we carry around a phone is because we're hoping to have some kind of emotional connection. We're triggered by, oh, somebody cares about me right now, but it's a proxy. It's all in pretense. We have the phone because we're waiting for that next moment when we can actually be close to somebody, when we can have eye contact and maybe reach out and actually touch the person. So.
Oh, I love this conversation because I think as well, I think a lot of people, particularly may not have thought about this subject in as much depth as what they have had to face recently. particularly if you've lost someone or not able to see someone that you care about, but also just the idea of just two people, you know, mutually kind of connecting where you can just hug someone. And we've gone from being quite intimate and hugging a friend or hugging someone for the first time, and then all of a sudden it's, you know, we're all kind of wary about how to manage, but we're all still emotionally trying to crave and connect with that, you know. And I think it's such an important thing to acknowledge, and how technology has really kind of been got in the way.
Yeah. So when you began that idea, you started by saying that it's not something that we really think about, and it probably never will be, because it's just ingrained in our, you know, primeval brains to touch.
Yeah.
I have not a whole lot of interest in spending much of my time trying to talk about touch, but rather to just capture it on film as much as I can. I saw a really terrific film a few years ago, and I wish I could remember the title, but all of the characters were they were hard of hearing, and the whole film is signed, and so it's a really physical film. And that's one of the few films I can think of that really got there. It's a lot darker than anything that I would want to make for myself. But yeah, I mean, the reason the film has no dialogue is to really draw focus to that idea, which is that touch is really everything. Even if the equalization that occurs and the relief that occurs is momentary, it's still enough to carry us through.
Absolutely. And let's just go into the actual film itself. Like, firstly, I felt like you know, your lead character, I mean, she just kind of oozed like love, and she had such a great sensibility, and she looked so fantastic on camera, and I just felt like she just, you know, she really was a person that you want to hug, you know, in some respects, you know, and I really felt that from the moment I saw her. And then, you know, the way in which it was shot in the area, I was so fascinated by this kind of world you kind of took us in, what was kind of a place that we take for granted, is mundane place, but I was like transfixed with what you were showing us. Tell us a little bit about the casting process for you, and kind of how you wanted the film to articulate as well.
As far as casting went, it started with knowing that that there was going to be a lot of, that movement was going to be the communication. I had seen a screening of Gaspar Noé's Climax at the Egyptian, and there was a Q&A afterwards in which the lead gave a shout out to the choreographer, Nina McNeely, and I thought, oh my God, if I can somehow get somebody like her involved to kind of lead me to the right people, then that would be a real feather in our cap for the production. We did find her, and she turned us on to another dance instructor who teaches at the same place where she teaches here in LA, called the Sweat Spot, I think. And that was Ray Ejiofor, and he's a professional dancer. Actually, during the audition process, there wasn't any talking, and there weren't any lines. I just had people walk and watched them walk, and then was seeing if they could take direction in the way that they walked. And his walk in particular is especially important, because he is shaking off his demons in a way towards the end, and so that was really important. So at any rate, I started to follow Ray on Instagram, and then there was a choreographer who he was following named Jasmine Biscuit Albuquerque. I'm not getting the right order of the words right.
We'll put it on the screen at the end, don't worry.
But she was, she's a very tall woman, and I was looking at her at first, and then she had posted something about this this woman who she had choreographed in a music video, and that was Astra Marie. And I started going through her account, and she's a so colorful person. But the one image that stood out the most was when she wasn't, her face was just tight, and she was looking dead into the lens. And then what she had written about vulnerability, I thought, this is her. So I contacted her, and she was a little hesitant at first because I'm a total stranger, but after I pitched her the idea that there's this woman who, more than anything, wants some way of communicating love in the world, but the world is just too fearful of her because of that she's a giant. Yeah. She became verklempt and said, I was just having this conversation with somebody today, but that's how I feel when I'm in the world, so I'm in. So we drove her out from Long Beach, where she lives, and she ended up being a lot shorter than we thought.
Oh, really?
She was, yeah, and we thought, okay, well, we'll audition, and everything was in her eyes. All of the emotion was there. And then Tech, the cinematographer, and I said, okay, well, we'll just figure this out. This won't be too hard. We can come up with some practical solutions to create the illusion. But that was it.
Wow.
And she hadn't really acted in a film before either. And she is a ray of sunshine.
Yeah, she really is.
All the time.
Oh, really?
In the film, on set, she's a remarkable talent, and I just couldn't keep my eyes off of her when I was supposed to be paying attention to what the camera was doing. I was just watching her be herself. And
that's always the greatest joy when you got people like that on set, and it's certainly important to have that kind of vibration on set as well, particularly for a film that is about touch. But looking back on creating this film, and obviously you spoke a little bit about how you know, a certain style that you kind of wanted to create in your projects. Like, what is kind of like next on the horizon? What kind of style or kind of genre are you looking to move into next? It's a question and a half.
It's going to be more of the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I am submitting the film to festivals has been extremely eye-opening. The majority of the legacy festivals like Cannes and Venice and San Sebastian and Sundance and all of the rest, seem to lean heavily into cinema verite, social realism, which bores me. I am much more interested in creating magic first in order to capture the imagination of the viewer before then dealing out the emotional message.
Oh, I love that.
So that's and I'm afraid that's a bit vague, but I'm just not interested in realism in any way. In fact, the films that are made in America, which are fantasy, like all of the superhero movies, to me are equally dull. Not only because there's no emotional risk, but because the effects that they spend millions of dollars trying to get exactly right, it's too realistic to me.
Yeah, CGI is more important than emotion in some respects, you know?
That plus, I don't believe it because it's too real. They're too busy trying to convince me of the world. And I'd much rather see the scenes. I mean, I'd much rather see marionettes or puppets than I would see something that is convincing me that that's reality.
I love that you're taking that take on it, because I think some people come in as a director and they wait for the magic to happen within the scene or whatever it is, and you're actually looking for the magic first and then, you know, telling the emotion from that. And I think that's really awesome and refreshing.
Yeah, I think everybody benefits, everybody being the people on the set, the talent in particular, because it's working their imagination, and you know, we're all basically children. I mean, we all are hoping that our own imaginations and sense of wonder will continuously be stimulated. So I want to appeal to that. You know, I think that there's a line. I think that there can be too much of that. I think that there should just be just enough in order to get the audience to participate, in order for their imagination to participate in the film.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, taking from that stance, and for you as a creative person and with your artistic vision, and just if you could relate to our filmmaking audience, kind of any sort of, you know, advice or things that you kind of go by, and when you're kind of deciding what you want to do, is there anything that you've learned on your career thus far?
No, I don't have any advice.
I love it. See, done. Game over. No, I'm kidding.
But I want to elaborate on that, though. No, I don't have any advice for anybody. I don't think that anything can be said. It's such a personal process, and beyond that, it's 100% collaborative as well. And the film is always going to tell you what it wants to be. You just have to be open enough to listen. That's really the only advice that I can think of, is to pay attention to your own movie, particularly in the editing room. But that's it. All you can do is listen to the luck that you're being handed. That's about it.
I think that's really important. I think your attention to detail is also important, and like you say, listening, you know, I mean, even in this interview right now, you may not feel the energy, but like, you know, I'm really hearing what you're saying and vice versa, and you can really feel the effect when you truly listen to and see what's in front of you, and I think that's such an important part to play as a filmmaker, especially when you're starting out. But well, listen, I'm so glad that you brought Big Touch to us in a world that's lost a little bit of sensibility in that area, and I think it's really great that you're creating the magic first. So
thank you.
Thank you for Big Touch. Keep making more movies in this realm for us, because I'm always wanting to go this deep into the context of a film.
Yeah, I will. I mean, I really believe that, particularly because of how divided everything, but also being an older filmmaker who grew up in the 70s, at a time when the message was much more about love, that's really the main thing that drives me. Mm-hmm. Because love is the foundation of everything, whether it's learning or parenting, growing. And what we see on the screen mirrors who we could become. Mm-hmm. And if we're not seeing, and love, when I say love is active. Love is not a single state, it's not fixed. It's a constant motion. It's all about trying to be as open as possible in an unconditional way to everybody in our lives, which is a challenge. It's probably why we don't see it in film so much, because it's invisible, and it's much more easier to show conflict. Mm-hmm. And that's also something that drives a story forward. And love is something that's really internal. Yeah. So that's really the thing for me.
I love that you shared that, and I think it's absolutely true. And I think I think with love and how it's portrayed on camera, it's not often shown in its kind of realistic kind of, you know, the way it kind of really is. It's kind of always got that Hollywood edge to it. Yeah. So I love that we recognize that.
And another thing that actually came up when we spoke on the phone was that in order to actually achieve that on film, there needs to be equality between the two people on screen. And that's something that we're starting to see, particularly in queer cinema. Yeah. But it needs to be all cinema. I mean, as we're moving forward into greater representation, the hope is there won't need to be quite as much of a push for the surface of representation, so that we can just watch people being people, which is struggling to try to find their best selves, and through the partnership of somebody who's equal, become the person who they most want to be, so that they can enjoy the rest of their lives expressing that best self. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for bringing your love perspective to the set. I feel all gooey inside now. No, this has been great. Thank you so much, Chris, for bringing this film to us. Thank you for Big Touch, and keep making more movies for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.